Okay, this is going to show how to install bearings in a Santa Cruz full suspension linkage. The linkages that I have are from a Santa Cruz 5010 or Solo, but pretty much all full suspension frames are going to have similar linkages, and I think they all pretty much use the same bearings, so this process will be basically the same no matter what Santa Cruz frame you have. For the bearings, you can get those from Santa Cruz, and if you're the original owner of the frame, it's pretty nice. They have a lifetime bearing replacement policy. So whenever you need new bearings, you can just fill out a form on their website, and they send you a new set of bearings for free. The bearings aren't super expensive, but that's just kind of a nice thing that they do. And if you want to replace your bearings just kind of for the peace of mind and just to have a fresh set of bearings, you can do that every year if you want to, or even sooner than that. So that's what I'm doing now. I've already replaced one set of bearings in this lower link, and I'll do the other set right now. The only thing that you really need to keep in mind for this lower link is that the bearings that's used in this link, they're open on one side, and that's because there's a grease fitting or a grease zerk in this link, so you can pump grease into the bearings. So the open side of the bearing just needs to be to the inside of the link so the grease can get in there. I've got the bearings in the freezer right now. That helps make the installation just a little bit easier because they end up shrinking a little bit. But that's not necessary. You can do this with everything at room temperature if you want to, but I've got them in the freezer right now. And then the tools that I'm using, I actually ended up making these little bushing pieces that the bearings go on. And you can buy a tool real similar to this from Santa Cruz, and it's pretty cheap. I think it's like $20. And it makes it nice just to have a tool that has tight fitting machined pieces, because when you press the bearings in, you just want to make sure that they're going in nice and straight and square to the link, and that they're not going in crooked and trying to bind. So if you're just using like a couple sockets or something to press them in, that's the one thing to kind of watch out for. But I'll go grab the bearings here. So again, the open side of the bearing goes to the inside, and I've kind of packed some extra grease in these already, but this just goes in like this. And the other bearing goes in. Just make sure it's nice and straight. Then as you tighten these nuts, that's just going to press the bearings into the link. And they should press in pretty easily. Again, having them in the freezer helps a little bit. But even if you don't have them chilled in the freezer, they should still press in pretty good. I just like to make sure this is nice and tight. That just kind of guarantees that the bearings are all the way in against the shoulder that's down inside there. But that's it. Pretty easy to install, especially when you have a nice tool like this. Yeah, that's it. So I'll also show the upper link here. So for the upper link, it uses two different sizes of bearings. I've already installed the larger size. These are the same as what I just installed in the lower link. So that's the same process there. For this upper link, the bearings are sealed on both sides, so it doesn't matter which way the bearings go in. like it did on the lower link. But for these smaller bearings, because this is kind of like a Y-shaped link here, I also made this spacer to go in between, so when you tighten the bearings in, there's just no risk of this trying to bend or tweak inwards. You could also just install these smaller bearings one at a time to eliminate that risk, but I made this spacer, so I'll just install them both here at the same time. Just grab them out of the freezer here. So exact same process. Since they're a little bit smaller, obviously have smaller bushing pieces for them. Put the spacer in. Second bearing, making sure everything's nice and straight. Make sure it's nice and tight. Just making sure that the bearings are all the way against that shoulder. And looks good. So pretty simple to install them. I did another video where I showed removing the bearings, and then kind of a longer, more detailed video just describing the tools that are used to both remove and install. So I'll put a link to those videos in this one if you're interested in seeing those. And if you have any comments or questions or anything like that, feel free to leave those, and I'll try to get to those. And yeah, thanks for watching.